Officially begin, there's a quick announcement from the sisters from MENA, the Muslim Youth of North America.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. My name is Pashmina, and I'm the upcoming public relations chair for the MENA camp. So this camp is taking place from April 19th to April 21st. And MENA camp is, it's a youth camp for Muslim youth, and it's to strengthen, the youth deen. And so a lot of kids in the area come to this camp. And so at the camp, there's daily lectures. Everybody prays 5 times a day. It's like a regular camp with camp activities like a bonfire and socializing with other Muslim kids, but there's a lot of other Muslim activities that are worked in between. So Shazmina is just going to go over some other details about the camp.
So usually this is during your spring break, so I know that maybe Ikna is going on or Isna is going on during this time, but I know a lot of, us children our age, this is from, I think, ages 12 to maybe 18, so a lot of us just stay home during spring break and don't do much, but this camp is a great way. There's all Muslim counselors, Muslim chaperones, and a lot of what you're doing is just connecting with your deen more. So me and Pashmina have been going regularly for 5 years now, and it's just a great time to network with people that are our age and from our same faith, and also a great way to reconnect with Islam. So this year's theme is Renew You. So I think a lot of the speakers will be talking about that, and we bring in great speakers. But I also do think that a lot of the pricing right now is cheaper since it's 3 weeks before the camp, but as we get closer to the camp, it gets a little bit more expensive. So I would really encourage you guys, your children, probably to attend, to be a counselor, and just to spread the knowledge, because Mid-Atlantic is a huge camp. It happens in Delaware, I'm pretty sure, Maryland, and it's really big, but it's not big right now in New Jersey, so if we could get more youth to come from here, that would be really nice. So we'll have flyers probably in the back where the tea is, but please do come if you can.
And you can also check out www.mena.org. Thank you.
So this is Women's Month. I hope you all know that March is is Women's History Month. Everyone knows that, right? Right? March is Women's History Month. And Shazmina, right, she has a TED Talk. Did you all know that she's given a TED Talk? She's given a TED Talk. And could you say a bit about your TED Talk for us?
So I gave my TED Talk 2 years ago now. I was in high school, I was a sophomore. I'm still in high school right now, but it was just about the meaning of the hijab, but also more so just the role of women and how they're portrayed in the West, Muslim women in the West. So it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. But yeah, that's what it was mostly about. The title of the talk is, I think, the perception of the hijab in the West. So very straightforward, and it's a lengthy one, but if you want to see it. My full name is Shazmina Khan, and this is my sister Pashmina. And we live nearby over here. We go to boarding school in Florida, but yeah, thank you.
I know. Thank you for the announcement. Let's begin with Al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Oh Allah, we ask that you bless this gathering of knowledge. Oh Allah, we ask that you make it a means by which we draw near to you and make it a proof for us. Ya Allah, oh Allah, we ask that you elevate and that you protect and that you empower our women, Ya Allah, wherever they are, Ya Allah, women from different backgrounds, different religions, and women with different aspirations who seek goodness, Ya Allah. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah. So today, again, we're looking at and I love the theme, alhamdulillah. We had 2 very well-spoken young women speaking, and And one of them has a TED Talk that has gotten lots of views on social media, by the way. And today we're talking about three great Muslim women. Women who were change makers, women who were trailblazers for their time. And my hope is that we as a community make a commitment, renew our commitment, and facilitate everything we can to produce women of the caliber of the women we're going to be learning about tonight. Inshallah ta'ala. Ameen, ameen, ameen. The first of these women is from the ancient empire of Aksum, the Aksumite Empire, also known as Habasha or Abyssinia. And this is where Aksum is on the ancient map. It was an empire that was in existence at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Aksumite people. The core of the kingdom was where you see in Eastern Africa and the southern tip of what is Yemen. And Imam Nawawi, the great Imam Nawawi, who collected the famous 40 Hadith al-Nawawiyah, who wrote his commentary on Sahih Muslim, the book of Hadith Sahih Muslim, and Riyadh al-Salihin, Guards of the Righteous, and so many incredible books. He says in his book, Tahdhib al-Asma' wal-Lughat, the verification, the refinement of names and languages, that Al-Habasha is the largest land in the world. And it has the most people in the world. So what that tells us is that his understanding of Habasha, at least in his time, is very different than what we think when we say Habasha. A lot of times we just think of the country of Ethiopia. But I want you to understand that no, it was a great empire. Its core is where you see outlined in blue, shaded in blue, but it actually extended much, much, much further than that, to the point where the great Imam Yahya al-Nawawi mentioned that it was the largest land of his time. So the woman we're talking about is from Al-Habasha. She was a princess. Her name was Fidda. Some Muslims know her as Fizza, Bibi Fizza. If you go to Pakistan and India, Bangladesh, they call her Bibi Fizza. But her name was Fidda. The word Fidda means silver. And her father was one of the rulers from the Aksumite kingdom, and she sadly was captured as a slave. So this was a princess who was captured and then sold into slavery. We talk about human trafficking today, right? You know, the United Nations says there's approximately 30 million slaves in the world today. 30 million slaves in the world today. And as Muslims, we should be doing something about that. Inshallah, we will. Being a part of the solution, not the problem. Right now, unfortunately, too many Muslims are part of the problem of enslavement, from Mauritania all the way to the Gulf. But that's a whole nother lecture. Fidda was captured, and then she was sold into slavery in Mecca and Medina. And she was in Arabia and sold into slavery in Medina, rather. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad, God bless him and grant him peace, purchased her. And then he freed her. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and other Muslims would do this often. They would buy a slave in the market, and just so everyone is on the same page, at this time in Arabia, slaves were of all ethnic backgrounds, all what you would call races, all colors. There were Arabs that were slaves, that like Suhaib al-Rumi radiallahu anhu. There were Persians that were slaves, like Salman al-Farisi, and there were Africans that were slaves, like Fidda, and like Sayyidina Bilal, our master Bilal radiallahu anhu. So slavery was not based on race. It was equal opportunity. Europeans were slaves, Asians were slaves, Africans were slaves, and she was sold into slavery. Prophet Muhammad purchased her and then set her free, and then brought her into his home as a servant, as a khadima, not as a slave. And she served the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And when our mother, the great lady Fatima Zahra, radiallahu anha, may Allah be pleased with her, when she came to her father, the noble Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and she asked him for help. This is the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. She's working, cleaning. She used to grind flour, and Imam Ali radiallahu anhu would sell the flour, the cakes. She would make little cakes like biscuits. They would sell this in the market. So she was working with her own hands. The daughter of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was not above working with her own hands. And she came to her blessed father, who is the leader of not just Medina, all the Muslims in Arabia and beyond, and said, you are getting so much, so many spoils of war, you're conquering all these places, give me a servant, right? And so the first thing the Prophet ﷺ did, according to the historians, was he came one night to the house of Ali and Fatima, Allah be pleased with them both, and he taught them a dhikr. Many of you know the dhikr. Many of you, I hope, are doing the dhikr. What's the dhikr? To say Allahu Akbar 34 times. To say Alhamdulillah 33 times. And to say Subhanallah 33 times before you go to sleep at night. To say God is greater 34 times. Praise and thanks belong to God 33 times. And to say transcendent is God 33 times before sleeping. What does that have to do with help? You see, the Prophet ﷺ was teaching her that you should seek spiritual help first before you seek material help. This is a lesson for all of our affairs. Whether it's your business, whether it's your organization, whether it's your family, always seek spiritual help first. Whether it's school, right? Seek spiritual help through remembering Allah, and then the practical, then the material. So later on, so he taught them this dhikr, and Sayyidina Ali, our master Ali bin Abi Talib, Allah be pleased with him, said, from the night Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave me that dhikr, I never left it till the day I died, not even during the Battle of Khaybar. And if you know a little bit about Muslim history, the Battle of Khaybar was one of the most intense, challenging battles that the Muslims ever faced. He said, not even on the night of the Battle of Khaybar did I leave that dhikr. His heart was always connected with Allah, which is the key to his greatness. So she came into the household of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and she would spend time. One day she would do the chores, and then the next day the daughter of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would do the chores. You see the example that Fatima set for us. When you have a servant, you should give them some time off. Don't just say, this is the contract, you have to work every day. No, they took turns. I really want you to understand, the lady of the house, she did work, and then the next day, the servant, in this case Fidda, Lady Fidda, she did work. Then the next day, they took turns. But she wasn't just there to work, she was learning, she was studying, she was absorbing the knowledge and the light, and most importantly, the character of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the character of Fatima, Lady Fatima, the character of Ali, the character of Al-Hassan, their children, and Al-Hussein, as we'll see later. Fidda, may Allah be pleased with her, was not only after the passing of Lady Fatima, radiallahu anha, they gave her a choice. They said, you can leave, you're free to go. She said, no, I want to stay with the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so she went into the household of Al-Hassan, the oldest son of Lady Fatima radiallahu anha. And then she served his wife and his children, and again learning from them, until he passed away poisoned. And then she served Al-Hussein, Imam Al-Hussein, Al-Shaheed, the great martyr, radiallahu anhu. To the point where she accompanied Imam Al-Hussein at Karbala, to the plain of Karbala, which is in the place called Nineveh in the Bible, called Ninawa, and Najaf in Muslim geography. It's still there today, Najaf, Karbala. This is the site where Imam al-Hussein, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he took his stand against the tyrant Yazid, who was a Muslim, but a brutal tyrant, who was well known for drinking alcohol and being extravagant. Right? At that place, Karbala, Imam al-Hussein, may Allah be pleased with him, and all the men who were with him, except for his son, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein, were murdered, were massacred. About 70 men. Only Imam Zayn al-Abidin was spared because he was sick. He wasn't on the battlefield. He was too ill to go to the battlefield. It was a very sad moment in the history of Islam, but a very heroic moment as well. The women were spared. The leader among them was the daughter of Imam Hussein, Sayyida Zainab, Lady Zainab, the daughter of Imam Hussein, the granddaughter of the Prophet ﷺ, and she and Lady Fidda and the daughters and granddaughters of Imam Hussein and the Prophet ﷺ and other servants, they were led without their khimars. The armies of Yazid took off their headscarves to humiliate them, to disrespect them, and they shackled them. And they led them in shackles from Karbala, which is in Iraq today, all the way to Damascus. And when they got to Damascus, you can read this online, when they got to Damascus, Lady Fidda, Yazid had ordered his soldiers, some of whom were Abyssinian, to attack her, right? Because, you know, women generally have the gift of gab, right? Women know how to talk, right? A woman can make you or break you with her tongue, right? The brothers are going like this, yes, I know. Right? Yes, but I think if men and women go toe to toe, the women can out-talk the men, inshallah. Allah does best. Generally. Not in your case? Inshallah. Well, I will ask Brother Nassim, inshallah. So, brothers and sisters, Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, Yazid was the son of Muawiyah. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was one of the companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of the scribes of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His son Yazid he was not a good example of how a Muslim ruler should be. And he ordered his soldiers to discipline her, to punish her, to torture her. And she gave an incredible speech. I hope you read it. We should have our sons and our daughters memorize this speech. And she basically told them to have taqwa of Allah, to be conscious and be reverent of God, and not to obey a man when that obedience means you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fearless. And then after she gave her speech, These soldiers looked at Yazid ibn Muawiyah and said to him, if you dare command us to hurt this woman again, we will turn our swords on you. When you know, brothers and sisters, how to articulate yourself and how to think clearly, and with you is iman, is faith, there's nothing you cannot do. She had a particular miracle, and I just want to highlight this. There's many things I could say about Fidda, but we have two other women to cover, and I just want to give you a taste. We won't be able to go through all of these, but I just want to give you an idea of who this woman was. Fidda is also known as Al-Mukallimatu bil-Quran, the woman who spoke using nothing but the Quran. We have some brothers and sisters who are memorizing the Quran now with Sheikh Ismail. She had not, remember I said she wasn't just a servant in the house of the Prophet ﷺ. No, she was a scholar. You see, if they wanted, this is like Anas ibn Malik. Who's heard of Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu? His mother, Sulaym, radiallahu anha, Allah be pleased with her, she put him in the care of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he was 10 years old, as a servant. Why? Because she knew that the servants are the closest people to the house, to the family. And she wanted him to become a scholar. And he did become a scholar, Anas ibn Malik. He served the Prophet ﷺ for 10 years. And he said in that 10 years, the Prophet ﷺ never said to me, why did you do that, or why didn't you do that? Can you imagine going 10 days, not saying, why didn't you do that, or why didn't you do that to your children, or your wife, or your husband, or your employees, or the people who work with you in the masjid? The Prophet ﷺ was that patient, that understanding. So she was absorbing the knowledge of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. And so there's one story I want to share with you about her. And again, I can't tell the whole story. One day, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, radiallahu anhu, he was traveling. He's one of the tabi'in, one of the great followers from the fallen generation. And he came upon Fidda while she was sitting under a tree. And he said to her, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Peace be upon you and the mercy of God. And she responded, Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. From Surah Yasin. Peace be upon you from a loving Lord. Meaning she's giving salam from Allah Ta'ala. And then she responded, مَن يُضْلِلِ اللَّهُ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ وَيَذَرُهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. To such as Allah rejects from His guidance, there can be no guide. He will leave them in their trespasses, wandering in distraction. From this Surah Al-A'raf, 7th Surah, or the 8th Surah rather. And she meant that she had lost her way. And then he asked her, Imam Abdullah ibn a great scholar, Allama, he asked her, where are you coming from? She responded, Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa. From Surah Al-Isra. Glorified is the one who carried his servant by night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque. And then he asked her, how long have you been in this place? Waiting. She responded with another verse from the Quran, ثَلَاثَ لَيَالٍ, from Surah Maryam. See, everything that came out of her mouth was what? Quran. This Fidda, Lady Fidda. This princess who humbled herself as a servant in the household of the Prophet ﷺ, and that Allah made her a great scholar. He asked her, and then she said, He asked, what arrangements have been made for your food? She responded, وَالَّذِي هُوَ يُطْعِمُنِي وَيَسْقِينِ. He's the one who gives me food and drink. And she responded, and he said to her, is there any water for your wudu? She responded, فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ. And if you don't find water, then go to clean earth, high clean earth, and rub your faces and your hands therewith. Meaning she didn't have any water, so she was making tayammum. You see? So anyway, let me skip down. And then she, this is one of my favorite parts here. So he asked her later on, he got her a camel and helped her with different provision. And then she praised him for his understanding what she was saying. And then he asked her, so he began walking in a slow and allured voice. And she said, فَقْرَأُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Read what is easy for you from the Quran. Meaning, instead of humming this poem he was reciting, right? Because this is what they used to do when they went on long journeys, they'd recite these poems. She said, read from the Quran. And then he started reading from the Quran, and she said, وَمَا يَذَكَّرُ إِلَى أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. And none will remember except the people who have innermost hearts. And then he asked her, oh auntie, do you have a husband? Are you married? And she responded, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَسْأَلُوا عَنْ أَشْيَاءٍ إِن تُبْدَ لَكُمْ تَسُؤْكُمْ. Oh, you who believe, the ayah, do not ask about things that if it were made known to you, you wouldn't like it. You see, to do this is miraculous. She's so intimate with the book of Allah that she knows exactly when to ask and what context. And then she asked, Sidi, can you come help me with this? He asked her, do you have any son or relative in this caravan that has a connection with you? And then she responded, Al-malu wal-banuna zinatul hayati dunya. Wealth and children are from the adornments of this world. Thank you. And then he asked her, what work are your sons doing for the caravan? And then, let me go on. And then he asked her, what are the names of your sons? She said, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. That's one son, his name is what? Abraham. وَكَلَمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا. The other son, his name is Musa. And then she said, Ya Yahya khudh al-kitab bi-quwwah. Oh Yahya, take the book with seriousness. Alhamdulillah. So at the end of the story, the lady's son informed the Imam that his mother had been speaking like this, using nothing but the Quran, all day and all night for the last 40 years. This narration says 40 years, not 20 years. And this lady was Bibi Fitba, who had come from Abyssinia to Arabia, and then it tells her story as well, that when she first came to the Prophet ﷺ, she was only 11 years old. This princess. So again, alhamdulillah, may Allah Ta'ala reward her and bless her. This is where she's buried. Sidi, I lost your screen again. This is where she's buried in Damascus. I can't see. In Damascus, she's buried in Dimashq. Right, so if Allah Ta'ala makes it easy for us, may Allah bring peace to the people of Damascus. Shukran. May Allah Ta'ala bring peace to the people of Damascus. Okay, fine. Okay, the next woman we're looking at is Fatima Fihriya. She was a great woman. I wanted to highlight different kinds of women. So we've looked at a woman who was a scholar from the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now we're looking at a woman who was not known as a scholar. She has children that are scholars. You can go to Morocco today, and one of her great grandsons is a scholar who lives in Fez, Sheikh Ismail, I believe his name is Al-Fihri, right? Sheikh Ismail Fihri. And Fatima Fihriya was known as a philanthropist. She was extremely rich and wealthy. She lived in what's now known as Morocco, what was then known as Al-Maghrib. She was known for her wealth and also known for her taqwa of Allah, her piety. And she established the endowment, the waqf, the foundation for the first and oldest known university in the world. And of course, by extension, in the history of Muslim civilization, Al-Jami' Al-Qarawiyyin. The Qarawiyyin is not just a Jami' masjid, it's also Al-Jami'ah. It's a Jami', which is a masjid where you pray Jumu'ah, and it is Al-Jami'ah, it is a university. Because in those days, we didn't separate as Muslims between the place where we worship and the place where we go to seek knowledge. So if you imagine that this masjid was the Qarawiyyin, during the day you would see PhD level courses going on. And when I first visited, it's not like that anymore, it's changed. But when I first visited Fez in 1999, when I went to this masjid, the Qarawiyyin that she established, the classes for the most advanced levels, these are people doing PhDs in Islamic studies and Sharia, in theology and other subjects, in economics and so many different subjects. Their classes were in the masjid and anyone could sit in the masjid and audit those classes for free. That's how it used to be all the way from Senegal to Singapore in the Muslim world, before education was monetized and commodified, right? Again, that's another lecture. Okay. She built a university that wasn't just for Muslims, as you can see. Anyone could study there, Christians, Jews, open for everybody. And one of the amazing things about this woman, again, she wasn't just wealthy, she was very righteous. It took about 10, 20 years to build the Qarawiyyin Masjid University. And the whole period that they were building it, she fasted every day, except the days of Eid. How long did it take to build this masjid? How long? This year, this masjid? This masjid, 3 years. So imagine a brother or sister from our community seeking the pleasure of Allah for this masjid, fasting the entire 3 years, except for Eid al-Fitr and the days of Eid al-Adha. Right? Because she understood it's not just enough to give money. You have to purify your soul, purify your heart. Great woman. Some of the oldest manuscripts in the world are there, and alhamdulillah, I was blessed to go to the library at the Qarawiyyin about 3-4 years ago, and to see one of the manuscripts of Ibn Tufayl, one of the great scholars of medicine, Islamic medicine. And he has a section, like Hakim Salim, right? But, you know, much, much more advanced. Ibn Tufayl, there's only one manuscript remaining from his book on medicine today. Only one remaining copy, and it's at the Qarawiyyin Masjid, and he has a section on diabetes. There was a conference that was done on Islamic medicine, and his manuscript was examined and studied by medical scientists, physicians, and diabetologists, and they said he absolutely left nothing out of his description, his diagnosis, his prognosis, or his treatment of diabetes except for insulin. Because it hadn't been discovered yet. That's how thorough he was. And he lived hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So this great woman is an example of a Muslim who used their money to establish an institution that, mashallah, is over 1,000 years old. Over 1,000 years old. To this day, you can go to the Qarawiyyin Masjid, you can pray in this masjid. That's a picture of the masjid, and it is a beautiful masjid. There's a sense, there's a spirit there that all of us can feel. And this is a project done by Rabata, which is a Islamic education community for women and for girls. You can go look at their website, rabata.org. And this sister, Sakina Mujahid, she highlighted Fatima al-Fihriya, and Sakina is active supporter of her organization, SNAP, which is means Sisters Need a Place, a shelter for Muslim women who need a place to stay. Sakina devoted 16 long years of her life to ensuring the success of this project. Today, SNAP offers safe housing and a chance for Muslim women who have come upon hard times to get back on their feet. This is how we pay honor to the legacy of Lady Fidda, radiallahu anha, al-Habashiyya, and Fatima al-Fihriya, and so many other great women. The last woman we're going to look at is Kali Niamat, rahmatullah alayha. She was a Javanese warrior and queen. Where's Java? Anyone know where Java is? If you like coffee, you should know where Java is, right? Indonesia. So Kali Niamat was from the area, the Malay archipelago. And she, again, was a mujahida. She was a warrior and a queen, a ruler from a royal family, like Fidda. She was from a royal family. So again, in honor of Women's History Month, I wanted to highlight a woman who was a scholar, and a woman who was a philanthropist, and then a woman who was a ruler and a warrior. لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة سيدنا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجات الرفيعة وبعثه مقام محمود الذي وعدت إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. O Allah, Lord of this perfect call to prayer and prayer to be established, we ask that you grant our leader Muhammad the praiseworthy station, the great intercession of you have promised him. Indeed, you do not break your promise. So in conclusion, brothers and sisters, Khalid Yamat, she lived in the 1500s. Her father was a great Javanese king. And after her father passed, she became the ruler of the city-state of Japan. And she is known as one of the earliest mujahids to resist colonization, particularly the colonization of the Portuguese. If you know about the history of colonialism, the Portuguese were among the first to start, exploring and exploiting parts of the world. And she launched warships from Malacca. Malacca was a place that the Catholics, the Portuguese, had captured, and they were using as a port for their trade, right? And you find this, maybe one day, inshallah, we'll have a lecture on colonization, neocolonialism, and religion and economics, because they all go hand in hand. But they use Malacca as a platform for their trade, and she and other Javanese Muslims resisted, alhamdulillah. She suffered some defeats, and after her husband and her brother were murdered by political rivals. These are Muslims now. Right? And I'm talking about this because you have to understand it's not just enough to be Muslim. Are you practicing Islam? That's the question. Because you can look at Muslim history and you'll see all kinds of atrocities done by Muslims. Like Imam Shaka says, sometimes before you read Islamic history, you need to take Iman pills. You have to take faith pills because your Iman starts to shake. Like, what is this? Right? Look at Imam al-Hussein. Anyway, she was also known as a patron of Islamic arts. So she wasn't just a warrior. She was not just a great ruler, but she spent her money to support Muslim artists and invested in the Muslim arts. She had a great taste for those arts. And she built masajid, like the Mantindan Mosque, in memory of her husband. It's like the Taj Mahal was built in memory of, what was his name? Shah Jahan. Yes, thank you, yeah, his wife. Right. And she developed her city as a trading hub that was in direct competition with Malacca. After her husband and her brother were killed, she left politics. And she went into the mountains of Indonesia to focus on developing not her political power, but her spiritual power. And to this day, she is honored, she's revered in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Singapore. They even have a parade where girls and women dress up like her and tell her story. Alhamdulillah. And this on the right, I guess my right, yeah, your right as well. This is the masjid that she built in honor of her husband. Typical Javanese style, right? And then on the left, this is some of one of the pieces of art that she supported, alhamdulillah. And that's it. We're going to stop there, inshallah ta'ala. Is there anyone who has questions? Any questions? No? Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much. And may Allah reward you for your time and patience. Inshallah, we'll head to the masjid for Salatul Isha. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك.